Welcome, Junior Tuckies. My name is Mrs. Ramhill. This video is on the section Nutrient Cycles, and this is a theory video on nutrient cycle essay. Now, one of the essays you must be able to answer is how is climate change, global warming, affecting the nutrient cycles? Now, we're first going to start off with the nitrogen cycle. So how is the nitrogen cycle affected by climate change? Now we know fertilizers, herbicides, and pesticides. We learned about that in eutrophication. Burning the fossil fuels have caused the amount of nitrogen to increase. Here in my essay it says double. That's very bad. It can affect the pH of the soil. It can affect soil fertility. Okay. And researchers have also found that certain grass species are starting to dominate because they are used to the nitrogen, and while others are starting to disappear. Now, sewage, we know, also has a high amount of nitrogen. So when there's a high amount of sewage released into any water, we know what's going to happen. The whole process of eutrophication is going to take place, where it will grow a lot of algae, blocks the sunlight, and then the plants will die because there's no photosynthesis. If there's no photosynthesis, the sea organisms or the water organisms will die, and that whole area will become a damaged ecosystem. So that is just from sewage. Now, still part of the nitrogen cycle, acid rain. When we're burning fossil fuels, we're releasing a lot of different types of nitric oxide, nitrogen dioxide, that contributes to smog and acid rain. Okay, acid rain is very bad. Here, your sulfur dioxide and your nitric oxide, your nitrogen dioxide, and turns into sulfuric acid and nitric acid. That's very bad. But they are just dilute forms. And it mixes with the water, and as it falls, it will then can damage your cars, right? We're more interested in how it damages the plants. It will damage your plants, it will affect the pH of the soil, the plants die. It can affect the food web by affecting fish. So it's actually not very good. Really, really bad. So we must find a way to actually decrease the amount of nitrogen. So this is now how nitrogen is affected by climate change. Let's look at the water cycle. Here we talk about flooding. We know with the water cycle that with precipitation and evaporation, that in certain areas now, with climate change, the areas that are more used to getting floods will get more floods, and the places that are dry will get drier. So floods are bad because it will wash away all the plants. It will kill the animals. Okay, places that are dry, it's the same thing. There's no plants, there's no food for the animals. There'll be less photosynthesis. Those areas will turn into deserts. Only trees with deep roots have a better chance of survival. Okay, and so the animals die, so the whole food web is destroyed. We also know flooding and lack of water can lead to soil erosion. That's how it affects the plants. Right, then how is carbon cycle affected by climate change? We know the more greenhouse gases like carbon dioxide that we release, we know we're going to release, it's going to lead to the enhanced greenhouse effect. And that obviously will affect your photosynthesis, it will affect your respiration, and the temperatures get hotter. And these organisms are not suited to high temperature, so those organisms will start dying. As it gets hotter also, we will have more infections that will start increasing. Okay, we have your phytoplankton, can only photosynthesize at a certain temperature. So when it gets hotter, they will die. There'll be less photosynthesis and more carbon dioxide. So we're cutting down the trees. As we cut down the trees store a lot of carbon dioxide for us, so we're decreasing photosynthesis. So how is the oxygen cycle affected by the climate change? Right, so as it gets hotter, the ocean gets hotter as well. And the warmer the water gets, warm water holds less oxygen. If there's less oxygen, it'll affect all marine life, right? Bigger fish will need more energy, so they'll need more oxygen. So they will have to start moving to shallow surfaces where there's more oxygen. And that can cause these species to be fished, and they can be vulnerable or they can be killed by fishing. So the situation we are in right now is not very good. But you need to know how each of the cycles are affected by climate change. This essay is a very good essay. You can be asked either part of the essay. Make sure you know this work well. Thank you for joining me and watching this video. Join me and watch all my other videos.